Good morning. Welcome to the November meeting of the Knoxville Historic Zoning Commission. This meeting is broadcast on several TV stations, so please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphones. At this time, we'll take the roll. Dallas?
Commissioner Blackburn?
Present.
Commissioner Eason?
Here.
Commissioner Bradley is excused. Commissioner Kessler?
Here.
Commissioner Hearns?
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Here.
Commissioner Randazzo?
Here.
Commissioner Tillman?
Here.
Commissioner Webster?
Here.
That's 8 present, sir.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have a swearing in of the speakers. If you wish to speak on an item, please stand now and answer with "I do" to the following affirmation. I solemnly affirm that the testimony I'm about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. We ask that all speakers please limit their presentation to 5 minutes, and also that speakers please give their name and address before speaking. Please sign in at the desk by legibly printing your name and address. Appeals of any Historic Zoning Commission decisions may be made to Chancery Court within 60 days of the date of this meeting. This time we'll have approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Lindsay, will you take us through the staff reports, please?
So there's one level 1 COA issued since the last meeting at 1602 Washington in Edgewood Park City. The applicant will be removing aluminum siding to expose the original woodlap siding, restoring and repairing it with in-kind replacement when necessary, removing a non-original existing front door, and installing a new one compatible with the design guidelines, and that's it.
All right. Let's go into the reports to the commission. Our first case is in 4th and Gill. It's at 1028 Luttrell Street. It's case 9F24-HZ.
Okay, so this is an application that's been postponed at the September and the October Historic Zoning Commission meetings. So I will run through a summary of any of the changes that have been made since the previous meetings, and I can unpack the overall project. The applicants are proposing to remove the existing rear addition, and they will reconstruct a new rear addition that will be inset 6 inches from the existing house. The addition will have a gable roof, an exterior of fiber cement shingle siding, and a parge-coated CMU foundation with double-hung windows. And again, they have revised it to inset that application from the primary house by 6 inches. The exterior rehabilitation scopes have not changed since the previous application, except for that the applicants are now proposing to repair the existing windows. The previous discussions had focused on replacement of those windows, and so now the original or the existing windows will all be repaired, except for obviously on the new addition, they will install new windows to match the existing. So some of the staff findings, again, in general, it hasn't changed too much. Due to the adjacent vacant lot, the left elevation of this addition will be visible from the right-of-way. So insetting the addition from the primary massing, that revision is appropriate within the design guidelines. It's also been revised to incorporate an additional window here. If you recall previously, it was all one swath of siding with little transparency, so they have added a window and inset that addition. The windows have been subject to pretty extensive discussion. They had deferred maintenance and they are deteriorated. So responding to feedback at the previous meetings, the applicants are revising the application to repair the existing windows. They will repair and replace in kind that exterior wood trim. That does meet the design guidelines. If any windows aren't able to be salvaged, replacement specs should be submitted to the commission for approval. In terms of the siding replacement, just to refresh on this one, the applicant is going to just repair this existing asbestos shingle siding, and then where necessary, in particular where there's vine growth and the shingles are deteriorated, and on the new addition, they'll install a fiber cement shingle siding to patch and replace. In the opinion of staff, the limited patching on less visible elevations where the siding deterioration is most significant, it's appropriate within the design guidelines. The fiber cement shingles should be confirmed to match the asbestos shingles in size, thickness, and visual detail. And then repair and replacement to this porch railing is appropriate. The porch columns and beams will be retained. The guidelines recommend replicating original porch flooring, which was tongue and groove instead of decking. And the applicant should submit a final detail of the new porch railing to staff. So the staff recommendation is to approve 9F 24HC, subject to the conditions that if any windows can't be repaired, the specs should be submitted to the commission for review in a new application, exterior window trim to be repaired or replaced in kind, the new shingles to match the existing in size, thickness, and detail with measurements provided to staff, the new porch flooring to use tongue and groove wood instead of decking, and the porch railing to be submitted to staff for review.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present? Good morning. Would you like to speak?
Good morning. My name is Tyler Morrow, and obviously I'm at 1028 Luttrell Street. Basically, I think we're kind of in agreement on everything. Just wanted to kind of see, like she said, the windows we've kind of decided just to repair. Originally, we were going to replace. So, and along with the front porch, everything is basically going to be fixed and repaired as is, and very little to be replaced. And if it is replaced, then obviously in kind.
Okay, thank you. Is the neighborhood rep available?
Aaron wasn't able to be here today, but he sent in a written comment. He said the neighborhood is in favor of the staff recommendation. The only thing we would add is we would like to encourage the applicant not to replace parts of the front porch railing that aren't absolutely necessary, and just to emphasize that replacement parts need to match the original dimensions, which may be larger than modern lumber sizes. So that relates to the staff recommendation of just submitting additional information to staff for review if necessary.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, we'll open the floor to the board for questions to the applicant.
I have a question for the applicant. Specifically, the staff recommendation condition 4, new porch flooring to use tongue and groove instead of decking. Do you have an issue with that, or do you want to respond to that?
I don't have an issue. That's kind of something that my wife, the designer, was wanting to do. Like I said, at this point, it's just, I mean, you all know we've done this for a couple months. It's just, we want to restore this house to as best as we can. So, I mean, if it's going to take replacing it with the deck boarding instead of that, then we're okay with that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Not, do we have a motion?
I would like to move that we approve based on staff recommendation.
I'll
second.
I do have a question. The staff recommendation, I'm confused if the applicant is withdrawing changes to the windows, but the application still shows changes to the windows. How do we discuss that?
Which specifically are you talking about?
It says that it's the removal of the two windows number 5.
Yeah, so that remains within the scope of work. I just didn't read that one out. That hasn't been changed since the previous proposal, but those are called out here on this image.
Okay, and so we're reading the points 1 through 8 and not the graphics in the application that show the changes to windows.
So these windows will be removed, are still proposed to be removed, and that is reflected in the application,
Okay,
in these drawings right here.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. Any further discussion from the board?
We received a lot of neighborhood, or it wasn't neighborhood, a lot of public comment, which I appreciate. I'm not going to respond to all of it, but it is appreciated and it is heard. I know specifically someone was concerned about whether the current addition was historic. I feel like we can, with our expertise, pretty clearly see it is not based on the foundation materials. But again, the public comment is appreciated.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. That's a good point. All right, if no further discussion, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Our next case is in Edgewood Park. It's at 1800 Jefferson Avenue. It's case 11H24HZ.
Okay, so this is the proposed replacement of non-historic vinyl windows on the house's lower level, including 2 on the facade, 2 on the east elevation, and 1 on the west elevation. And the replacement windows will be 1/1 double-hung aluminum clad windows in the same size as the existing opening. So just to summarize this one, the Commission approved replacement of the side elevation windows with an identical product at the October meeting. Due to the condition of the windows and the scope of the project, the applicant had to return to replace the remainder on that first floor. The windows are not original to the house. The windows are also meet the design guidelines for the original and the adopted Edgewood Park City design guidelines. In particular, they do note the revised note that alternative materials can be considered as long as they match the overall size, Muntin profile, and style of the original windows. So staff's recommending approval of 11H24HC as submitted.
And just for the record, it does appear that Commissioner Randazzo has recused herself on this one.
Thank you. Is the neighborhood rep here, or do we have comments?
I don't have any additional comments.
Okay. All right, we'll open the floor up to the board for questions, if any. If not, we'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. We've got a motion. It's been properly seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, our next case is at Fairmont Emeryland. It is at 1960 Emeryland Boulevard, and it is case 10E24HZ.
Okay, so this application was postponed at the October 2024 meeting. There were no revisions submitted since the previous meeting, so I'll just give a very brief summary. The project includes an addition to the front and east side of the house, or the east side of the house right along the facade. It's recessed 1 foot, 5.5 inches from the front elevation. There's a covered porch addition on the east elevation, and then so that can be highlighted right here. There's a garage addition, which is a new 3-car garage on the rear right corner of the house, and then an addition on the rear of the house. I can run through these at the existing conditions and the proposed additions. There's also a new driveway that's proposed extending from Emeryland Boulevard. So to run through some of the staff findings, this application was postponed to allow the applicant to revise the drawings in response to the guidelines, the staff recommendation, neighborhood input, and the commission's discussion. Discussion related to the placement of the front addition and the massing of the 3rd-story garage. In lieu of revisions, the applicants provided a letter, which is in the case file. It cites design motivations, the creation of a new wider lot, the neighborhood context, and existing 3-car garages within the overlay. So to speak to the subdivision plats, the Historic Zoning Commission doesn't review new subdivision plats within existing districts. However, the original lots of record in the neighborhoods were 50 feet wide and the houses were designed accordingly. The letter cites 3-car garage examples. However, none of these were reviewed or approved by the Historic Zoning Commission. 2 of them predate the overlay and 1 of them is outside of the overlay. The proposed additions are significantly large in footprint. They effectively double the overall square footage of the house. The front addition, the design guidelines recommend that they're placed on the side or rear of buildings, and they also note if additions are made to the existing building, they should be located at least 5 feet behind the front facade of the existing building. The front addition is set back only approximately 1.5 feet, and it doubles the existing facade width. Guidelines do, in terms of the garage, guidelines recommend that doors do not face Emeryland Boulevard, and they should be located at least 15 feet behind the front facade. The design does meet these design guidelines. The garage will be larger in scale and visible from the street due to the adjacent vacant property. 3-car garages are typically not in character with the historic context, so the commission should discuss the overall massing of this proposed garage. And then, so the staff recommendation has not changed since the previous meeting. The commission should discuss the massing of the garage addition and that proposed front east side addition. Pending input, additional conditions or a decision, any additional conditions of approval should include that the front east addition be revised in placement to meet the guidelines and additional landscaping planting be included in the final site plan along the east side property line to serve as screening for the new garage and parking pad.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present? Good morning. Would you like to speak to the comments Lindsay made? Yeah, join us at the podium, please.
Good morning and thank you. I'm Joseph Goldman with DIA Homes, 402 South Gay Street. I am going to keep my portion brief and defer majority of time to the owner, if that's okay, but I had a few comments.
Sure.
We provided a letter, and I think that identifies the, or at least addresses the comments that we had. But I just want to make a point that Todd and Anita Davis sought our team before they were aware that their home had been overlaid in the historic zoning district. And it was important to them and their family lineage in the home to take the appropriate steps to do a design that accommodated the historic values of the existing house. And following our last commission meeting, I met with Todd and Anita to evaluate the path forward, and we believe that the architectural appropriateness in the design and the impact on the existing structure, as well as the provenance rights of the family and home, warrant consideration by the commission to approve the design as originally presented. I'm here to address any comments you may have towards the architectural side of this, but again, I'd like to let Todd speak to the family values.
Sure, go right ahead.
I'm Todd Davis. I thank you for your time this morning. I put a letter into the packet. I don't know if you guys took the time to read. I hope you did, because it really goes to the, I guess, the human side of this. And, basically, our design on this was to keep intact the historical design, but also make it, livable for my wife and I as we move into our retirement years. This house is, as Joe alluded to, it's been in my wife's family since it was built in 1927, so it's been in their family for 95 years. It's the first home that we lived in when we were at UT. We're coming back to our retirement years to live here. And I have to say, my wife, she is the living embodiment of this historical significance of this house. Her family would be proud of what we're doing, that we're coming back after being gone for 35 years to move back into this house. To borrow, again, I put in my letter, to borrow you from Lynn, I guess we're wanting to be able to invest in this community and through reasonable efforts through historical preservation. And I kind of feel like we have done everything we can to be reasonable with this. It doesn't exactly meet the guidelines, but a guideline is a guideline to us. It's not really a rule or a law, but we're trying to stick to those guidelines as best we can.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Do we have the neighborhood rep here? Or
We do have people.
good morning.
Good morning. I'm Ann Barber, 2010 Emory Lane Boulevard. And I would like to speak to this matter. I walk daily past that house. It is a historic, old residential neighborhood. There is no need for a 3-car garage to house a transportation business in this neighborhood. Casey Krause and his hardworking staff and intrepid volunteers worked very hard to add trees to this neighborhood. It fronts and sides on First Creek, which is the first creek of the city of Knoxville. The city has spent a lot of effort upgrading the past flood issues to double the amount of impervious surface to this area would only increase our flooding possibilities. It would also have a negative impact on the quality of the flora and fauna of First Creek, which feeds into the Tennessee River, which we get our water from, even though it's upstream from that. This house is way too big. The proposal is twice the size. Yes, I understand wanting to preserve the historic nature of the house and the facade. Doubling the square footage is not in character. There are children that play in this area. People come to this area to walk. As I said, Casey Krause has planted trees to take down the beautiful pecan tree that is how many decades old to accommodate a 3-car garage. Does not fit this neighborhood. If this family wants to maintain its transportation business, there are plenty of lots across the street on Broadway where they can do this. I'm speaking from a neighbor who is not that far away, who regularly walks past this neighborhood, this house, and I strongly oppose it on the basis of maintaining a residential neighborhood, maintaining an area where there are trees that contribute to the quality of life in this neighborhood and in this city, maintaining the structure of the creek that we work so hard to clean up, and maintaining a place where children ride their bicycles and people come and walk. In the middle of the pandemic, there was even a birthday party in the median, and because it was an area where people could come and be outside. That is a neighborhood. A 3-car garage and a concrete pad that is bigger than my whole house is not part of a neighborhood. So I ask you to oppose this.
Ma'am, one question. Are you speaking on behalf of the neighborhood or just yourself individually?
I am speaking on behalf of myself. Thank you. And I live in that neighborhood half block away. So I'm pretty representative of the neighborhood as a walker, as a person who walks along the street and cleans up the trash along the road daily. So that's who I'm speaking for whom I am speaking. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Do we have anything from the...
I didn't receive any additional comments from Steve Cottom, who is the neighborhood liaison.
Okay, all right.
I'd like to make a comment.
Briefly, yes.
My name is Patty Curvin, and I live next door to that property at 1932 Moreland Boulevard. And I appreciate and agree with what Ann Barber had just said. But I live there. I bought in this neighborhood for my retirement because the buildings are small, it's friendly, it's a walkable, it's quaint, it's lovely. Currently, the property that we're discussing has tenants in there, and it seems that there's a transportation business that's being run out of there, which causes a lot of motor vehicle activity, both on the road, alongside parked there, and in the backyard and everything. And it is disturbing. I live right next door. If a car is parked out on the road and sitting there for a long time with the lights on, the lights are shining right into my house. And it just disturbs the whole feel of the neighborhood. I was there for a few years before this tenant was in there. My house is 1,547 square feet. I have also put an application in for a carport, a single car carport in my backyard, following all the guidelines of the Fairmont Moreland neighborhood and everything. And to think that next door there's going to be a 3-car garage and a concrete pad, I think that's just not appropriate for the neighborhood at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Business issues are not the purview of this commission. We only look at the guidelines and how the applications adhere to those guidelines. But Mr. Davis, can you speak to that? Or is there a transportation business being
We have
run?
a tenant that lives there, and he works for a limousine company, but we will be the ones living there. There will be no business run out of this house. This will be our residence.
Okay,
We move forward. The concrete pad is strictly where you're coming in off your driveway. You have to have, the asphalt going to the garage. It's not a big pad that's going to have cars parked on it. That's the whole point of wanting to have the garage, so our cars are inside the garage, not sitting outside.
okay,
I mean,
thank you.
in the letter I wrote, it details that. The reason, we had 3 cars, we want a 3-car garage.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that for contextual issues. Mr. Goldman, I have a question for you. You work for DIA, correct?
DIA Homes, we're partnered with DIA, yes.
Right, and so Ferris Eid was a very highly respected member of this commission, and I just wondered what his comments would be if he was sitting here right now to this application.
He and I discussed this project briefly. He did make a point that the easiest way to navigate this would be to push the addition towards the back. I think a couple points. One, that front addition that comes off there is the one contentious point of the guideline. To add that program and be as less impactful on that existing main frontage, coming through that window off of the front that would become a door and minimizing that on the front of the house was, I think, an appropriate solution. Not being able to push it 5 feet back. If I were to push it 5 feet back, I'm dealing with the coining on the corners has to go. We're being more detrimental on the brick. So the point is to have that piece in addition that the client wants. That is the appropriate solution. outside of that, the rest doesn't seem to fall much. I don't believe towards the guidelines, more of concerns in the neighborhood. I guess my other point is, and I appreciate the value of input from the community, is that's a lot right now. We haven't created 2 lots. If we put a second house on that lot, it's going to need a drive and take up an equivalent amount of space. So, you know, I guess the owner has the right to also sell that for a house.
Okay.
I hope that addresses your
Yes.
question.
All right, thank you. If you will allow us to discuss this, we'll open the floor to the board for any questions, comments.
I had another question for Mr. Goldman. The report discusses impermeable surface. Do you have that figure?
I believe we did on our site plan, but it would, I don't have the numbers off top, but I do consider pervious surfaces as well as the site and then whatever the 40% would be for that. So we were considering the double lot in that. That's your question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to go back to the point of the 3-car garage and just mention again that the 3 examples that were submitted, one of the examples is outside of the overlay, and the other 2 examples were constructed prior to the overlay being in place, as Lindsay has said, just to make sure that we make that point. And I think that the 3-car garage is entirely too large of an addition for a house of this size.
I also just want to clarify, there was a statement about guidelines being generally applied. I feel like we need to clarify that it is our role as a board to interpret those guidelines. Those guidelines are prepared by the neighborhood with their support, and those who live in that neighborhood have created those, and that is what they have agreed to. And when you own a property within that, that is something that you have to consider. It is our job not to determine, do you generally fit that or not, but is it meeting the guideline? So just to clarify, that's our role.
I understand.
Yeah. To expand upon that, as far as I know, and our legal consultant, Christina, or lawyer can clarify, I don't think provenance rights are something that we can consider either. As interesting it is to hear the story of homes and how they've stayed in families, I don't think it's something we really can consider. It's really just, does the design meet the guidelines?
When I was looking at the examples of the 3-car garages, it appears that 2 of the 3 are not attached, and 1 of the 3 has some kind of covered walkway that probably was not approved. I would think when we often have to talk about how we can compromise and be reasonable, because homes are not just relics, they're something people live in and use. There could be maybe conversations or a workshop on doing an accessory dwelling unit where a 3-car garage could be more appropriate. That would probably involve a lot of community discussion and input, but that could be one way that you guys could compromise.
So would a compromise also be to take it to a 2-car garage instead of a 3? That way it's an attached 2-car garage.
That's possible.
Yeah.
We like to have back and forth here, but we don't like to just, mark up your drawings and then send it off. But that's something I think further discussion with you and your architect and your neighbors, I think that would be very beneficial. Because I don't think that the 3-car garage fits within the neighborhood guidelines. I also still don't think that the addition in the front fits within the guidelines. I understand that it disrupts the interior programming. I'm curious about, I don't see any elevation photos about the coining that Mr. Goldman mentioned. Is it on the front?
So in that picture,
Top left corner.
it's hidden by the shrubbery on the top left, but if you look at the bottom right, the coining detail is the same on the opposite side minus the fireplace. Now.
Okay. Thank you. And I assume the what's the greenhouse in the back is not historic that you're removing?
Yes, that was a gift from my in-laws to my wife's grandparents back sometime in the, I guess, in the 50s or 60s. So that's where the master suite will be. So it wasn't part of the original home.
Okay, thank you.
I do think we postponed this previously to look at alternate solutions, and nothing has been presented at this meeting.
But the alternate solution was to the three-car garage, is that correct?
I think we postponed it to look at both issues, the setback and the
Okay.
massing.
Okay.
Has Mr. Cawthon's statement been read yet? He's sort of a neighborhood representative.
Yes, ma'am. So he didn't send me a new statement associated with this meeting unless he just sent it, which I don't think I see. So he had spoken to it last month and it was read into the record then. Yeah, thank you.
I'm inclined to postpone this application again and see a new design. I can't make you design anything new. You could come back with more arguments or letters. That's fully within your right. But that's what I'm inclined to do. I don't know if the rest of the board feels similar.
I'm so sorry. I do want to disrupt. So just to clarify, in terms of design and opportunities to continue to explore the design. The one issue is the setback off of the front addition portion of that. Another piece is the three-car garage, and another piece is the massing. Is that, and because I believe that the character of the house, you know, is complementary to it, but I would prefer not to spend a lot of time designing without a little clearer direction on that, if that makes sense, you know, because I could design a closet 1,000 different ways, but I just, this was the solution to their program layout, and this is our solution to complementing the house. So in an effort to get towards a solution, I don't know if there's a way to appropriately define that.
So I think one of the concerns is in regards to the massing of an addition. And I think that's what Lisa was trying to get at in that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
In that, if it were a separate structure as opposed to attached to the building, that is a separate massing from the original. It is not just an addition on the home, correct? Is that a correct statement? Okay.
Can you repeat that statement again?
Currently, there is a three-car garage, a rear addition, and a front addition proposed. That the massing of all of those is considerably larger than the original size of the home. That is what the concern is with the design guidelines. Not that we're adding these components, but that collectively they are larger than the original part of the home.
Yeah.
And that's where they don't fit in the guidelines. So breaking them into a separate structure or the garage into a separate structure and having the additions be secondary to the primary structure would help in that manner.
Thank you for pointing that out.
All right, any further discussion? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to postpone.
A second.
All right, any further discussion from the board?
I just wanted to make a statement that I think it's important to recognize, to your point about it's not just a relic, it is a home, and that you guys are coming back. So we're grateful that you're back, and that this has been in your home, in your family all of these years. So we do recognize how important that is. I don't ever want that to get lost. Secondly, to the neighborhood, who is so caring about this neighborhood and children and everything in there, I believe that there can be a solution, because I believe if that your home that you love, that you guys have been all these years, we can figure out a way to make it work. I do think it's important that it also be within communication with the neighborhood and what they feel as well. So, because you're coming back and you want to come back to a healthy neighborhood and you want to be part of it. So thank you for coming back. Thank you for your investment. And also thank you to the neighborhood who deeply cares about what it looks like to be community.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelser.
And I was going to add, I think Commissioner Tillman, his point exactly was, we're not voting on this today because we do want to give that an opportunity to come forth. And so you guys do have the opportunity to work together and make that happen. So thank you, Commissioner Tillman.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. With no further discussion, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. All right, next case is at 1932 Emery Land Boulevard. It's 11C24HZ.
Okay, moving right down the street. So this is the construction of a detached 22 feet by 12 feet carport in the rear yard. The carport rendering has a front gable roof clad in asphalt shingles with overhanging eaves. There's a concrete parking pad that's proposed underneath it, and they have simple square piers. The carport is set back behind the primary structure, approximately 116 feet from the front lot line, and it's directly behind the house. They will extend an additional 15 feet of gravel driveway to extend from the existing driveway, and the existing shed will be removed. So some notes about this. The carport will be located behind the primary structure. It's accessed via an existing driveway. It's a single car carport. There are no new curb cuts created. The carport will be minimally visible from the right of way. The design guidelines for Fairmont, they note to use siding that reflects the house. The proposed carport will use vinyl lap siding that reflects the vinyl lap siding on the primary house. There's an asphalt shingle clad. The renderings do show these narrow wood posts as support. The carport supports should be revised to be larger in size to be compatible with the context and the scale of the structure. The site plan has already been submitted to permitting. It lacks sufficient detail. The driveway sections are not shown. The footprint of the carport is not quite accurate, and the shed is depicted here. So the final site plan should meet standards of the zoning code and engineering standards. Revisions to the carport, including placement to a location more visible from the right-of-way, would require further review and approval by the HCC. So staff's recommending approval of 11C24HC, subject to the conditions that the carport supports be revised to be compatible with the primary house and the neighborhood context, and the final site plan meet city zoning and engineering standards with any revisions to placement, making it more visible, to require further review by the commission.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
I am. Hi.
Hello again.
I'm Patty Curvin. And yes, I got the notes, the revisions that are required. I've contacted Blast Construction. They're the ones I've hired to do this. They will be making the pier sizes bigger and everything to conform with all the guidelines. And as soon as we get the go-ahead, well, they'll send a revised site plan as well with all the detail that you need.
Good. Thank you, Mrs. Irvin. Anything from the neighborhood rep?
I didn't receive comments on this one.
All right.
You haven't, or you have?
I did not.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right. Any questions, discussion from the board? We'll open the floor.
My question is for Lindsay. I assume that if there are any major changes from this final site plan to the application, it would come back before us, or is that something?
Correct. I have that. That's in the second condition of approval. So revisions making it more visible from the right of way would require further review by the commission.
Okay, thank you.
I think we typically have more detail than this application is. I would really like to have more detail coming back to the commission.
Let me just comment, making it more visible. I have a driveway right now that exists that's 9 feet wide, and it goes from the road to the very end of my house. It's straight back. And then where we set this carport, it will be another 15 feet from the end of my house to the start of that new concrete pad. It will align, but will be set back behind my house, but my driveway will go straight back right into the carport. And so there's no shifting or anything like that there. When you walk by my house, you will be able to look down my driveway and see my carport. What other detail can we provide so I can contact the contractor?
I was speaking more about detail of the carport itself with the columns, the supports, the siding.
As far as design,
Yes.
it's going to match the craftsman design of my home with the gable roof and a little bit of siding. It'll mimic what I have with the telescoping gable in the front.
I think the current images do not reflect that.
Yeah, they're a little needy, aren't they? I don't like them either. I'll let the contractor know. So do you want the detail before you approve, or can we get the revisions done and submit it to Lindsay again?
I think that's up for group discussion.
Essentially, do we want to see it again, or can we let Lindsay approve it?
How do you feel about that?
I'm comfortable with the determination of the commission.
Okay. Good answer.
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone in order to see some more detail.
Okay.
Tell me what detail you need to see.
So I think some of the elements that she's speaking to, not to interrupt you, Commissioner Eason, but would be the measurements in terms of height. That was one that was actually submitted along with the permitting. The height, the footprint, calling out the materials on the posts and their overall size, and then calling out the materials on the building. Is there anything else that?
It would be, you said this is going to match something that's existing on your property now?
There is a shed there, a garden shed, that's in bad repair from carpet EBs and everything. So it's smaller than a carport, but it is sitting on a concrete pad with one alongside of it. We're going to destroy and remove all of that. And this is going to replace the garden shed. And of course, it's going to be a little bit, there you go. See, there was a little aluminum carport there for a little while, and that's gone. And you can see the shed in the back. I've had some of the trees trimmed and or removed. It'll go right back in the pitch of the roof, the siding, everything is going to match what you see on my house.
Okay. Thank you.
If you want, see the posts in the front, if you want the posts on the carport to be that size, I do too. The construction people, when they made that drawing, didn't use the right font or whatever, but it is all going to match. It's going to be within the same size and scope, so it doesn't look janky like that aluminum carport.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you answered my question. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right.
Is it the motion to postpone or approve?
Postpone. Any further discussion from the board?
Yes, I would just like to add for your contractor, whoever's going to revise the design, I would also like the site plan to show this is the existing driveway. Obviously, you've told us this is the existing shed. We see the dimensions 29, 47. To show those overall dimensions of the new carport on the site plan as well, I think would be really helpful for everyone. And I think it is good for us to err and not put a difficult judgment on Lindsay to evaluate something after we've approved it in principle, and then some of the details come in later.
So then,
Well, I was going to tell you, normally when we get these applications, we see like they'll show us a picture of the materials that they're going to use, which is why Commissioner Eason is bringing that up. So they should at least show your house and then like a copy of whatever materials. I mean, even for you to
There's
know. what
actually an
materials they're
example
gonna
in the
use.
following case, which might be helpful
Yeah.
okay,
to see.
and so I started this process in August. And when I saw that you needed things that I could not provide, I hired a construction company. So bad, because I picked the wrong one who didn't provide you what you needed. So now we're gonna go what? We're gonna postpone this till December?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
They
So-
just need to provide us more.
Just
Huh?
as we did.
Yeah, more detail. It's not that they haven't provided, but just more detail of what we need.
Well, I mean, if they're
they
a
should be
construction
accustomed to that.
company, they should know that. That's why I
Mhm.
hired them. Okay, all right.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much. All right. Our next case is in Sequoia Hills. It's at Scenic Drive, 937 Scenic Drive. It's 11A24-HZ.
Okay. And this has some additional detail in it. So this is the construction of a new attached garage and carport addition. The carport will be 12 feet wide by 20.5 feet deep. And I can zoom in on the site plan as well here. And the garage will feature a cross-hip roof clad in asphalt shingles with a 21 by 21 foot carport massing facing east, and the garage is facing towards the rear of the property. The garage will be supported by a 10-foot square wood columns to match the existing, and feature a gable field clad in shake siding. The garage will feature an existing 7x7 garage door relocated to that east elevation. The scope of work also includes the installation of a new driveway, which will extend from the left side of the property and wrap in front of the house to connect with the existing access to the garage and the carport area. So there's a second driveway that's extending from the right side of the house, continuing to the lot in the rear. So this is a separate lot back here. Overall, the proposed placement of the addition is appropriate within the design guidelines. It's located to the rear corner of the primary structure, attached to an existing two-story massing. It'll be minimally visible from the right-of-way. You can see some photographs of the existing materials here. The addition is secondary in scale to the primary house, and it'll have materials and a roof line compatible with the primary house. The site plan also includes a new driveway in front of the house. So guidelines do note that parking pads and circular driveways shouldn't be placed in the front yard except in extraordinary cases where a driveway to the rear is impractical or unsafe. And if approved, then landscaping should conceal that parking area from the street. So this new front driveway is proposed to provide a primary access to the house, and it's removing a shared access that goes to a lot in the rear. So in this instance, the front driveway is appropriate within the guidelines. The guidelines also note that site plans should map mature trees and describe the measures to preserve them. The new driveway is in the location of some trees, so the final site plan should include information on which trees will be removed and retained. So staff's recommending approval of 11A 24HC, subject to the conditions that the final site plan include information on the retention or removal of existing trees and landscaping to be retained or installed to conceal that front parking area to meet the guidelines.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Ethan Fields. I'm a representative of FE Trainer Construction. That was a very accurate description. I actually have a copy right here of the plans that have a markup of the 5 crepe myrtles that we will be removing for the access of the new driveway, along with a markup showing that there is already existing landscaping along the front of the property that the homeowner, before this home was accepted into the historic zoning overlay, planted for situations like this, actually. But I have the physical copy. I have a digital copy as well. If you would like to look at the physical copy I have for anyone that would like to see. But that's pretty much what I had for y'all.
Thank you. Do we have a neighborhood rep?
We do, and I didn't receive any comments on this one.
Okay, all right. We'll open the floor up to the board for questions and comments. Is that a new, previous slide, Lindsay, on the site plan? To the right, is that the gray area? Is that a new drive coming off of Scenic right there?
That is following fairly closely to the existing driveway. That is just allowing access for the property that is behind the home. Currently, the owner owns both of the properties. The intent is to eventually sell that property, but that is just to connect the property behind the home to the road, following as close as it can.
But is that a new curb cut though on Scenic?
Yes, that will be in a new location.
How far down is that from that three-way stop and that stop sign?
I didn't get sworn in, but
Do you affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I will, Rick.
You're good. But Fred, you need to say your name and address.
Yeah, Fred Trainer, 937 Scenic Drive. I own both those properties. And we don't actually plan to sell the back one. It was just that when we bought them, we didn't like that you share a driveway, and it seemed like an awkward situation. Anyway, we'd separate them. And the new curb cut is only about 5 feet. It overlaps. So the existing is here and the new is, just slightly overlapping. And so, what was the question I'm supposed to?
Well, I'm just wondering how it's going to affect that three-way stop, because that's tricky there.
Yeah, it is. It's only a few feet to the right of where it is now, so I don't think that it would really have any impact on it.
Okay.
So it moves to the southeast about, 5 feet or so. And that's really, I'm getting into too much detail, but it's really not even the curb cut. It's just beyond the curb cut.
Okay.
Just kind of starting to change the angle of it a little bit.
Okay. I don't like those crepe myrtles anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
There's always stuff falling off of them.
Yeah, and there's two big trees that are slightly affected, but they're really we're just kind of cutting into their root drip line by just a little bit. I don't think we'll kill them. I mean, we're not getting very close.
Okay.
It did say asphalt shingle roof. It's a slate roof.
If there's no other discussion or comments, I'll make a motion to approve with the staff recommendations 1 and 2.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion. It's been properly seconded. Any other comment from the board? Discussion? If not, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Next case is in Mechanicsville. It's at 218 Kanzler Avenue, and it's case 11D24HZ.
So this is the after-the-fact review of the demolition of a shed roof addition on the rear of the left side of the house. That's the northeast corner of the house. And then the proposed reconstruction of a new addition within that same footprint. So the new addition will measure 5 feet wide by 32 feet deep and feature a shed roof. I've got the site plan in the application packet. An exterior of woodlap siding to match the main house and 1 double hung window. So you can see the previous conditions here on the house. So to explain this a little bit, the majority of the exterior rehabilitation scopes clearly met the design guidelines. That COA is included in the application packet. So the applicant removed, or the previous applicants removed, non-historic aluminum siding and are proposing to install woodlap siding with an exposure to match, new wood window trim, and a door. So they were replacing a wide variety of non-historic elements on this house. The addition, however, was removed by a previous contractor without a permit or COA. It was substantially deteriorated. This is just a street view image here. And it had a lower pitch shed roof aluminum siding, and it was kind of directly on the grade. So removal of that shed roof addition is appropriate. The addition will recreate the existing footprint, and it will be differentiated by being significantly recessed from the facade. It'll replicate the existing roof pitch of the shed roof addition. And the exterior materials should reflect the approved on the existing COA, including wood lap siding, wood corner boards and window trim with sills, and a wood double hung window with the window spec submitted to staff for approval. So staff's recommending approval of 11D24HC subject to the conditions that the exterior finish materials, including siding, trim, and corner boards, reflect the approved wood materials on the existing COA, and the final window spec be submitted to staff for review.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Thank you. Would you say your name and address, please?
Patrick Harris, and the address is, sorry, I just moved, P.O. Box 70187, Knoxville 37938.
Thank you. Anything that you'd like to add to Lindsay's comments, sir?
She mostly summed most of it up. The actual addition would not be 32 by 5. It will actually be 5 by 12. The back section of the house was not touched or demoed. Only half of it was, so the addition is not actually that large. But everything else she said is pretty on par.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a neighborhood rep, Lindsay?
No.
All right. We'll open the floor up to the board for questions and comments, discussion.
Do you need to say something? So the new property owner,
Do you have input that you?
I'm sorry. Hi, sorry, first time here. Corey King, I also own 1404 Hannah Avenue here in the historic Mechanicsville overlay. So I'm stepping in to purchase this property. We're set to close here in the next couple weeks. And so I just wanted to show up, just to kind of show faces. I'll be kind of the new owner of this. I'm not planning on changing anything with this. My intention is to really just go ahead and kind of take over this project and really see it through to finish, including kind of taking over some of these existing building permits. So I don't have to go back through that whole process, because I know we have some wet weather, winter impending here. You can clearly see that the whole exterior is just exposed. So I'd love to be able to close on this and get to work as quick as possible, so I just don't incur further damages on this property.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
all. Yeah.
All right. Commission, any questions or comments?
Yes, I wanted to get a little more clarification on the length of the addition. The application says 32, and I forgot the person's name that's on Zoom said it was less than that. Is that partial?
Yes.
Was
The total length, it will be 32 feet, but only 12 feet of that was actually demoed off the original house.
Okay, that makes sense. That's as far as they got before they realized they needed a COA, I'm guessing. And along that elevation, the existing fascia of we'll call it the non-addition building, that will be visible and retained, and the addition roof will be beneath that. Is that correct?
It will keep that same roof pitch all throughout the side of the house.
I see a conflict between the front and the left elevation. That's what I'm referring to. And the pitch can be the same, but are they connected? Is it a continuous roof, or is it a separate roof structure?
It's a continuous roof structure. It just looks like that from the picture because it sits back. It's not flush with the front of the house.
Yes, correct. So the fascia of the original structure will be removed in order to extend those rafters?
Yes.
Okay. So that means the left elevation is correct and the front elevation, which shows them on two different planes, is incorrect. Does everybody else see the conflict I'm looking at, or do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
There's an additional, it looks like there's a gable at the very back. So that's the conflict that you're talking about, where it hits the gable.
Mm-hmm. So there's an additional gable in
At the top left of that, where you have the top deck, but you just passed, where you just have the OSB.
Yeah.
You see that? With the rest of the addition that's there now.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Harris, they're kind of speaking to these two conflicting roof lines here in the construction photos, and then also how they're kind of different on the front and side drawings.
Yes, I understand that. It might just be my drawing error. Obviously, what the old contractor did, he did not bring it to where the original roof line was, or the old, before he demoed that part. So it's, it will be within the same roof contour that's already there.
And can you just clarify, I know in the application description, you basically said that this stuff was constructed incorrectly, so you're gonna have to remove all of this and start again?
Yes, it was not built on any type of foundation. It was just sitting on the ground. So it will all have to be removed and redone over.
Lindsay, I would love if you could clarify, but I assume that a telescoping addition would be more appropriate within the neighborhood guidelines as opposed to continuing the original roof structure out for an addition? Do the guidelines specify that?
So the guidelines generally say kind of the slightly more general, shall be distinguishable from the historic building, but compatible in terms of mass and scale, size, and design, so they can be removed without destroying the form of the historic building.
Yes, and I would think that the existing, well, it is, I guess it already has been previously removed by this partially demolished addition. That fascia and roof line would be a characteristic part of the original home.
So are you suggesting that the roof of that addition start below the eave?
Yes, I would think
Okay.
that would be more appropriate, but I'm trying to weigh the consequences of a previous addition and whether that original, what's the
It may
word?
not be there.
The
You know.
addition shall be distinguishable from the historic building, whether that, and I think the fascia of the original roof structure is a distinguishing aspect for that massing. And I think the reason we call it telescoping, I think that would be more appropriate, but I'm not sure what else is there left to salvage. I feel like this is it's a little halfway done right now.
Based on previous Google images, I don't know that that fascia is still there. And I'm not sure that you would have the height to make that an addition without going above the existing roof line would give them that space. But that would be a totally different drawing.
You can do that. You can speak.
I was gonna say, 'cause this is my first time kind of through this process with everybody, so I appreciate just the patience. And yeah, like whatever's needed, if I need to amend some of these drawings or make it come out, because you're right, like if I was to try to go under that, there would be no, that's gonna be a bathroom laundry. It's would be the only bathroom in the house. There would be no head height for anything if I have to come below that roof line.
And plus you mentioned that it was built with no foundation, so you definitely have to do a foundation, which is gonna make it even
Yeah,
taller.
that whole left
Okay.
side has to just get completely redone. All
So,
that plumbing's gonna have to
yeah,
get
it's
redone.
gonna have to be
Bottom of
above
that
the roof,
house, it's in
like you said.
bad shape.
Mhm. So we actually don't have a drawing in front of us that properly reflect what it could look like. Am I wrong? I'm not an architect, but,
You're correct.
okay.
Yeah, this is all
Just-
helpful for me. I appreciate it, because yeah, if it means I have to like redo this and come back through.
I mean,
Cool.
I'm not an architect, but just from what you said, with no foundation, I know that's gonna lift it, and, which would lift everything else.
We'll have to dig footers like
Mm-hmm.
under there to have everything rest appropriately. I don't know. I could speak from like an architect standpoint as far as what would have to elevate or go under, but I know we would have to dig down. We had to do it on my property over on Hannah Avenue. I had to redo.
I just
a whole
have
bunch
a
underneath it.
question because I'm not clear, like when there's a changing property owner, I don't know that I've encountered this since I've been on the commission. Does the COA stay with the property regardless of the property owner?
Yes, so the COA is associated with the property, not the owner. It's
So if we postpone,
project.
he could come back afterward with additional information.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess my biggest hangup is the legality of us enforcing a partially demolished addition. You know, keeping that is within your right because it's already there. We can't make you remove something that's existing. It's partially there, and I think even it with its change in roof line is more appropriate than continuing the single roof line. That makes it more distinguishable from the original structure. But I'm kind of, I would love for Christina or Lindsay to help me out here because I'm not really sure how to
But bef-
evaluate that.
Before she responded, he told us that it didn't have footers. Could you have to do all that? I don't think he can do it with it being built halfway right now, can he?
He won't be able to get a building permit. You might have the COA, but when you go to the permitting office, you'll have to submit plans, and I'm not sure how you could make it work.
Yeah.
And they're not proposing to keep it as it's built right now.
That's what I was going to offer was, am I too close? Is that what's going on? That's what I was going to offer was that you definitely want to get in touch with plans review and building inspections as soon as absolutely possible because they're going to have some concerns about the structure of
We have
this
already,
portion.
we have already been in contact with the building permit and all that stuff, and
I understand you're in that process, but my point is that they may require you to make some revisions that would, if for some reason you got approved at this level at the HCC today, it might force you to come back. So I'm trying to save you that additional time. The other thing is if this piece of the structure, in the top right drawing with the teal siding, if that was never properly installed pursuant to permits and a COA, then no, they would not have acquired any kind of vested rights or non-conforming legally protected status. And additionally, even if it had, once it would be removed, that legacy protection, that grandfather status would have come off as well, so.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other discussion?
so is it just the roof line that it's causing the hang up?
That's my biggest issue. I can't speak for the entire board, but if this were to come to us as a new application, if there was nothing there and your proposal was to extend the existing roof line of the primary structure, I would say that's inappropriate and it should be distinguishable, either with a separate roof pitch, leaving the fascia remaining, lowering the start of the roof. I think any of those would be appropriate as a telescoping addition. Also, I'm not sure that a side addition in this context would be appropriate if it were a new application. And given what Christina has said about the pre-existing non-conforming rights of the property, I'm not sure that this addition is appropriate at all.
So I would and I think Mark can offer some clarification here because it has been through permitting and Mike Robinson reviewed it. Staying within the existing footprint doesn't bring them into any issues with the setbacks or the placement and the lot lines, right?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't create any new nonconformity, it would be okay. But if the addition comes all the way down, then you would lose what's existing. You would lose that nonconforming setback because the property line is pretty close to the structure.
But as the footprint is shown in the site plan, it is okay in terms of that.
And again, that status, that legally protected non-conforming status would only apply if it had been permitted and legally existing in the first place.
Okay.
Okay, how will we move forward?
It seems like we need additional information.
I agree.
I can make a motion to postpone.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, it's properly seconded. Any further discussion from the commission? If not, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. We appreciate your collaboration and
Totally.
we'll continue to work with you.
Absolutely. So just for my own marching orders here, because this is just uncharted territory a little bit. Just where do I need to go from here in terms of I need to get a revised drawing clear that it kind of clearly. I've already kind of learned from some of these my predecessors here, like what I need to also bring materials, things like that. That's cool. I'm all good there. But I would agree. Like I'm probably going to need to do something along with like that roof line in order to actually make that a feasible space for what we're doing. So like, I guess that would just be part of like this drawings or proposals. Like if I'm going to come above that roof pitch to actually have the ceiling height there, that all just has to come before everybody again, right?
Lindsay, are you comfortable assisting with that from here on?
Well, I would
Or do we
actually
need-
like what additional information the commission is requesting and where the issue is.
can speak for myself. I'd like to see elevations that don't conflict with each other. I would like to see the footprint of the existing addition, the footprint of the new addition, what has been partially demolished. Sorry, these are all on YouTube if anyone really wants to waste a lot of time, if you want to review what we say. The roof pitches, clarification on fascia, primary structure addition.
Okay.
We don't need a lot of details for like what your foundation would be exactly. The facing would be important to match existing. That's not on here. You may have to do a concrete slab to fit this underneath here, and how to make that work creatively, I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, our next group of cases is in Old North Knox. It's, first one's at
Not yet.
Dedrick, I'm sorry, beg your pardon. We're still in Mechanicsville, 243 Dedrick Avenue. Thank you, Dallas. This is case 11G24-HZ.
Okay, so this is the proposed removal of the original slate roof and replacement with a new dimensional shingle cladding. And the scope of work also includes new chimney caps and gutters. So you can see some aerial images of the slate roof on the application here. So some of the findings, past Historic Zoning Commission reviews of removal of slate roofing, including in Edgewood, Park City, Old North, and Fourth and Gill, typically approve this proposed scope of work, recognizing Park Service guidance noting that most historic roofs with slate from the late 19th and early 20th centuries reach the end of their serviceable lifespan after approximately 60 to 125 years. Previous reviews also recognize the extremely cost-prohibitive and labor-intensive nature of a new slate roof. This slate roof is original to the structure. It was constructed in 1888 approximately. Sections have been repaired in the past, leading to its extremely long lifespan. The guidelines recommend that asphalt shingles can be used if replacing the original is not feasible, with colors that reflect the existing roofing colors. And so staff's recommending approval of 11G24HZ as submitted.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
They were not able to join us today. They were
All right.
both in work conflicts.
Anything from the neighborhood?
Did not receive comment.
All right. Open the floor to the board of questions, comments.
I think half-round gutters would be more appropriate within the neighborhood guidelines. I'm not sure, Lindsay, if there's, if K-style gutteries are approved in this neighborhood often. I just saw that as one, it's a small thing, but a clear conflict. Gutters may be half-round, okay. Yeah, maybe is an important word. I'm sad to see this roof go, but I understand the difficulty in maintaining albeit beautiful slate roof. I'm sure your neighbors will be sad to see it go, but I feel it is extremely arduous and difficult to maintain. Really just in availability of people who can maintain it, and I support the switch to shingle.
I would second that it's a really gorgeous slate roof. I wonder if there's a possibility of salvaging or donating any slate or some additional use for it. I don't know.
I can speak to, we have some really nice birdhouses with salvaged slate roofs in our neighborhood. But we have also seen slate roofs replaced with look-alike metal slate roofs, and they are beautiful. On a house as tall as this, it's hard to distinguish. Obviously, that's not what this application is for, but always an alternative.
If there's no more discussion, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second? I'll second. Thank you, Commissioner. All those in favor, or any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now we're going to go to Old North Knox. 217 East Scott Avenue, and it's 11E24HZ.
All right. So this is
we're kind of returning to this previously approved COA we've seen a couple of times. This application is related to the siding on the house. The revised application proposes to use a smooth finished 4-inch exposure fiber cement siding instead of the wood lap siding to replace the deteriorated wood siding. So just as a refresher on the context, the broader exterior rehab scopes were approved in March 2024. The application proposed to remove the existing vinyl and aluminum siding to investigate the condition of any wood lap siding below, repair, and install new. The project does include a significant amount of reconstruction, including removing multiple non-historic additions and the construction of new exterior walls and massings on the front, side, and rear elevations. Fiber cement siding hasn't been approved in Old North as a replacement siding on original houses. It has been approved for new additions, secondary structures, and new primary structures. The application notes right now that only approximately 425 square feet of salvageable siding exists compared to the almost 3,000 square feet that would require new wood siding. The design guidelines currently don't support the installation of this new siding. However, the commission may choose to support this in this case due to the nature of the project, basically as a reconstruction over a rehabilitation, along with the very small area of salvageable wood siding to use as evidence. So recognizing the current design guidelines, the commission should discuss this proposed lap siding in context of the specific project, gather the neighborhood input, including related to future guideline updates. And if approved, the new exterior cladding should include appropriately sized corner boards, window trim, and window sills.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Lauren Bush with Open Door Architecture, 206 Chamberlain Boulevard, and I'm representing the Hattar family. So I don't know if you've driven by Scott since we've done a lot of the demolition up there, but all of the old additions have come off the structure, and as we've done that and have been able to inspect the condition of the existing siding, there's very little salvageable siding left. It's really interesting under some of the vinyl. I usually see like paint kind of peeling off, and it's just black where it's not rotted through. It's a different condition that I've seen before. But we see this as a very unique circumstance. We're basically reconstructing this house in place instead of starting from scratch. Where the additions had come onto the structure, we're having to reconstruct new walls to close that envelope back up. So we see this as a unique circumstance where we're not repairing the existing siding. In most cases, we're really reconstructing the whole house in place.
All right, thank you. We heard from Mr. Boland.
He's on Zoom.
Okay. Sean, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Sean Boland, 115 East Scott Avenue, representing Old North Knoxville. The term here that is most relevant is reconstruction, which the neighborhood does agree with. Obviously, the neighborhood has guidelines where for an existing historic structure, you replace in kind. The entire 1/3 of this house is new construction. Currently, you can see all the way through on almost all 4 sides of the house. In this case, we believe that this should be considered new construction, and new construction does allow for fiber cement board. So we support this application as written, and do want to highlight that the corner boards and the window trim, as staff has recommended, should be true to the true dimensions. And we are not unsure at this point in time if that will have to be wood or if they make a fiber cement board substitute. But we support the staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll open the floor up to questions, discussion from the board.
First of all, I'm really happy that we're able to have this discussion because we discussed demolishing this home multiple times. And so I'm glad that your client has taken this project on. I was curious about the ADU. I remember that was also going to be wood lap siding.
It was fiber cement from the get-go.
It is? Okay, so then you would want those to be matching now?
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
I rarely disagree with Sean. I am a member of Old North Knoxville. I still consider this a renovation. I have a similar project on a slower timeline, albeit but I had a similar ratio of salvageable wood, and my plan is to install new wood lap siding and then repurpose, I think it's like 700 square feet, just got a little bit more, underneath a covered porch for further protection. Obviously, my application is not exactly what yours needs to be, but I feel that is more appropriate. But I may be alone in that.
I will say I wish we had photos because I don't know what the current status of it is since some of the demolition.
Would you like me to show you some? I have them since as more photos have come off. I don't know if that's...
I think that would be helpful because that
Okay.
is, there's precedent for that. We normally do have that to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can email them to me.
Okay.
While they're doing that, is there any other discussion, any points to consider?
I don't disagree with Commissioner Tillman's point. It is this is a little difficult for me to wrap my head around both sides of this, so.
While we're waiting for those photos, 2 points. One, Lindsay had just emailed a recent photo to you of the front of the house. And two, Commissioner Tillman, I do agree salvaging some of that siding and putting it on the rear underneath the covered porches would be a wonderful story and preservation for the house.
Yeah.
Yep, and so as you can see, that whole front facade where those other old additions had come on to the house, all of those walls are having to be completely reconstructed, where they had put in sliding doors and elements like that in parts of the original house that we are reconstructing. We're working to get that wall cavity back in place and having a continuous backer for that. But I think the contractor said on site last week that we're basically reframing probably 90% of the structure in place, whether we're supplementing that to try and protect some of that original character on the interior and the exterior. The roof will be reframed as well. We're just trying to keep the floors protected for as long as possible.
Lindsay, can we hear Sean's comments, original comments again? The neighborhood rep?
Yes. Would you like for me to repeat them, please?
Yes, please.
Okay. As we can see here, this is a reconstruction of what was originally there, or very similar thereof. That entire front third of the house is new construction, and that can't be argued. So our opinion as a neighborhood is that it should be classified as new construction, and new construction does allow for fiber cement board. Because in this photo and others, you can see with the rear additions taken off, there was no siding under those rear additions. Most of the siding on the sides have been removed. So 80% of the siding had been removed. 85% of the siding had been removed. Most of the studs will have to be replaced. It's for us, and it's open to interpretation. We do consider this new construction and fiber cement board allowable.
Thank you.
I would agree with the neighborhood on this one, that fiber cement would be appropriate in this situation.
I tend to agree as well. And I know it's a complicated project, recognizing that.
But it would be great if that little bit of material could be salvaged, like Sean had suggested, and used in a protected location.
Mm-hmm. We would be open to that and respect that it's a complicated issue.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the application as submitted.
I'll second.
We have a motion that's been properly seconded. Any further discussion from the commission? If not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Good luck. All right, continuing in Old North Knox, we're at 128 West Glenwood Avenue, and it's case 11F24HZ.
Again, we're kind of revisiting these properties. So one revision here to a previously approved COA is related to the garage door materials. So there is a new garage door we can see highlighted here. They had previously approved wood, and they have a composite with a cypress walnut wood look finish using a horizontal panel carriage style design and a 3-light transom window. However, the larger scope of work is a new deck with a covered porch. It's approximately 17 feet 6 inches wide by 20 feet 3 inches deep on the rear corner of the house. The decking will be made of a composite flooring, and it'll be partially covered by a hipped roof with architectural shingles. The deck will feature a beadboard ceiling, a wood railing, and tapered wood posts to match the existing porch, and it runs through these material specs here. Some of the staff findings: the garage door was approved as a wood material. The revised submission has a composite. The proposed material will be compatible with the new secondary building. It's a new building, and the design will meet the guidelines as appearing to be carriage doors. The rear deck and porch are larger in size. They will be visible from the right-of-way as this is a corner lot. It has a roof with a hipped design that reflects the existing 4-square house and eave overhangs. The support columns will also reflect design elements on the front porch. Design guidelines recommend wood materials for porches. However, composite materials have been approved in Old North Knoxville, particularly on rear elevation decks that aren't visible from the right-of-way. Composite tongue and groove floorings have also been approved on front porches in Old North. The deck will be visible from the right-of-way, but only the flooring will be a composite material. The railing and porch supports will be wood. So staff's recommending approval of 11F24HZ as submitted.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is applicant present? Would like to speak?
Yes, sir. Once again, Ethan Fields with FE Trainer Construction. Lindsay summarized the scope very well, and we are happy with how this is going.
Great, thank you. Mr. Bowen, would you like to comment on behalf of the neighborhood?
Yes, Sean Boland, 115 East Scott Avenue, representing Old North. As far as the garage door goes, the neighborhood is in support of the modification to the application. As far as the rear deck goes, the size and the scale and the materials, the neighborhood is in agreement with the deck portion. The only area of contention, and this was not unanimous, about 80% of the feedback was that the roof could be inappropriate over the deck, though let's applaud the slope of the roof, and let's applaud the duplication of the front part of the house. We do not know if a smaller roof that would fit within the inset of the house, natural inset, would be better, or a full roof would be best over the entire porch. At this point in time with these drawings, we are not confident that this would be appropriate because it is only 10 feet from the sidewalk. And so we would like to suggest having more site drawings from different angles to see how glaring that half roof would be from the public right-of-way. It might be hidden completely and thus perfectly acceptable, but without those site drawings, it's really difficult for a neighborhood to decide. But the majority said half of the roof at this point in time was not acceptable.
All right, thank you. Would you like to reply to that?
Yes. So is the primary concern the fact that it extends a little bit farther than that jut out there, and they would prefer that it only extends to the existing expansion of the back, or they would rather it be the whole roof, or is it just with that it is a roof itself?
No, the roof itself is, no one's contesting that. The consensus was all or either the entire porch or the original inset of the house. Though, to be clear, the neighborhood's not digging in and saying this isn't appropriate for what they're applying for. What we are saying is we need more detailed drawings from different angles to see how it would look from the street, because it is only 10 feet away from the street.
Okay.
All right, we'll open the floor up to the commission for comments or questions, discussion.
Can we make a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make a motion to approve according to staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Any further discussion from the board?
I would like the neighborhood to be behind this roof question. I assume, Sean, you're asking for kind of a northwest elevation. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yes, from the public right of way, what is it going to look, maybe 20 feet down the street from the property? Maybe we can see 90 degrees from the right of way what it's going to look like. But just from different angles, the garage might hide everything, and then it's a moot point. Or the roof line might hide everything, then it's a moot point. But being so close, and when I say 10 feet, I think it's less than 10 feet from the public right of way. It's so it is extremely visible.
Yeah, Sean, I would agree that it is definitely very close to that existing sidewalk. As you can see, it actually follows the outline of that existing porch right there fairly closely. It extends a little bit farther, goes a little more towards the rear of the property. And that west elevation right there is, I feel, a fairly accurate representation of what it would look like from the sidewalk right there. About where that Mustang is actually would probably be a pretty good indication of where you would be standing looking at that western elevation. Now, I also see what you're saying when you talk about looking a little farther down the road. With the location of the garage and where that's going, I believe that the majority of that would not be seen until you get fairly close to the actual garage itself, and maybe even right parallel to the new garage addition before you could even see that addition, especially with the low roof that we're going to be doing as well. That's at least my opinion of how I see that, and I believe that the western elevation there shows a pretty good view of what it would look like looking directly on from this position.
Yeah, my interpretation of the neighborhood concern, if you look at the isometric view, you see we'll call it the eastern plane. It looks like a vertical set of shingles almost. And how visible that would be from the right of way is what I think the neighborhood is asking, and I think that's worth seeking further clarity.
And let's keep in mind that he said it wasn't everybody. It was not a majority. It was just some.
I thought he said 80%. Or was 80% were fine and 20% wanted more? Or was the other way?
No, 80% opposed, only 20% agreed.
Okay.
So I believe with different angles to the drawings, it could likely pass. We're just asking for a little bit more information so we can truly understand what it's going to look like from a street that is well trafficked.
Thank you.
I have a question for the neighborhood. Was there any discussion about the columns for the addition versus the columns for the existing front porch?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question, please?
Did the neighborhood have any comments about the columns? This picture shows double columns, but they are only proposing single columns.
True, and not only that, they are proposing single columns that are similar. So from the drawings, we can see that they are not tapered. So we are assuming they're going to be perhaps 6 by 6 with the detail mimicking what's on the top. We were not as concerned with the columns because of the homeowners and the builders' respect to the roof line, the materials, the balustrade. We were very comfortable with that. Obviously, if they built brick piers and had the double columns there, we would be more pleased. But a similar style column would be appropriate for a rear porch.
Yes, and I'd like to add that that while that rendering is a accurate representation of the layout, the specific design of the columns, the railings, those are going to be match existing. We're going to be matching the existing railing on the front porch there, of course, making it to the appropriate current code and match as close as we can. The columns are also going to be the tapered like that on the new addition of the deck. It will not have the brick column that comes up, just from the design, the way that it is currently, but it will be that tapered portion. It will go all the way down. It will be white just like that. We will match the dimensions as close as we can to what it is currently. And another note that I'd like to bring, I believe you mentioned a minute or two ago on that elevation that shows kind of that flat portion that looks like shingles. That is not visible from either road. So currently that property sits on the corner. That is actually the inner portion. The only person that would be able to see that would be their neighbor to the left if they were in their backyard. And the intention is to actually have siding that matches the existing siding there. It's just the way that the rendering is currently.
Yeah, I think that that part of the rendering is pretty awkward, which doesn't say it may be appropriate. And how much of it would be visible from the right of way, we are really close. So I think I agree with the neighborhood, and I would like to see a little more clarity there.
All right. Any other discussion from the board? If not, Dallas, would you mind to do a roll call vote on this, please?
Commissioner Blackburn?
I believe my vote's only to break ties.
Oh, I'm sorry. I remember we talked about this. Commissioner Eason?
I'm going to vote no, only because the neighborhood would like to see that additional information.
Commissioner Kessler?
Approve.
Commissioner Hearns?
No.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Randazzo?
No.
Commissioner Tillman?
No.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
That's 3 yes, 4 no.
All right. Then you'll be we voted on the postponement? No, we voted down the approval. So we're going to need another motion then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to postpone.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion on this motion?
Yes. Okay.
Yes for discussion or?
Yes. What else would you guys want them to do? I mean, it's fitting within the guidelines, and it's in the rear of the property, which we've approved before. I mean, to me, it's getting very nitpicky in this situation for what we're dealing with and how this properly fits within the guidelines. It's like we talked about making sure we follow the guidelines and not what everyone thinks earlier, but now we're like literally making a decision when it clearly fits in the guidelines, and the recommendation is to approve it without any exceptions. But now we are putting so much emphasis on the neighborhood when we're in the rear of a property. So I don't understand that. It's almost like 6 in one, half dozen in the other. Like, how is that different?
My concern was about the rendings being accurate, and when he mentioned that it's going to be siding, where the drawing shows that it's shingles, there's no mention of there being siding as a part of that deck addition. So it just feels a little confusing for me that it's hard to approve.
So yours is not based on the neighborhood, wondering what it looks like 20 feet away?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where my concern lied
Okay.
as well.
Okay, well, I guess my question's to Commissioner Tillman.
I would say it's both. I would say I want to, I hear the neighborhood's concern and I take that into consideration. And I also want to see clarity in this roof structure.
Would we could amend this application and probably vote again to maybe approve a version of this, if the applicant was okay with that. Would you be open to adding clarity that we could put in writing to possibly vote again today? Or do you need to take it back to your client?
So specifically to put into writing, are you asking for clarification on what it would look like? I don't believe that we could explain that, but the siding portion of the roof, I could very comfortably say exactly what that's going to look like.
Right, so I would be comfortable to make an motion offering an amendment saying what that would be sided with. So like if it was a material in kind with the rest of the home, but then I think there still is clarity needed on the columns, which I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, I would be perfectly willing to make that amendment if that would help you all make a decision today.
Well, first there is a motion on the floor, but
No, we voted on it.
on the postponement.
Yeah, there's
Oh, there was a motion. I
Oh,
thought-
that's right. This is further
Yeah.
discussion of that motion. I apologize.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's okay. But also, to your point, Commissioner Randazzo, perhaps that could be made instead of as an amendment, but as potentially a condition of approval. Just throwing that out there as a potential path forward.
We would be more than willing if there is a conditional approval of this project to provide all of that information. Our draftsman can update these drawings to show the descriptions that I've provided of that siding that is going to match the existing siding of the home. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
It's just 6-inch wood siding.
It's 6-inch wood siding that would be painted to match the existing house. And then the columns, I believe on my material description, it, like I said, matched the front. We could update those renderings to show that as well, along with the railing, and provide that to you with fairly quick turnaround for, especially if there's a conditional approval needing those elements.
So, Christina, are we required to vote on this motion, or could the motion be withdrawn and a new motion made?
I would probably go ahead and vote on it since it has had a second already.
Okay, all right. That being said, we're going to vote on the postponement motion. Dallas, you want to do a roll call again, please?
So if we killed this motion, then we could do a new motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, this is for the motion to postpone. Commissioner Eason?
I guess I'll say yes, since I seconded it.
Commissioner Kessler?
So I'm saying no?
Yes.
Yes, yes, I'm saying no.
Commissioner Hearns?
No.
Commissioner Mitchell?
No.
Commissioner Randazzo?
No.
Commissioner Tillman?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
No.
That's 2 yes and 5 no.
Thank you. All right,
Excuse me.
Commissioner Randazzo, do you want to make a motion?
I can try. My laptop died, so I don't have notes, so be gracious. I would like to make a motion to approve with 2 conditions. 1, conditional approval for the siding on the west elevation of the porch to be submitted to staff. And then condition 2 was the columns to be submitted.
That was the east side, to clarify.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to second.
All right, we have a motion, it's been properly seconded. Any further discussion on this motion? If not, we'll just do a general vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
All right, we have one last case. I do not have any backup on this, but it's on the agenda. It's at 119 West Glenwood Avenue. It's case 11I24HZ.
You don't have it printed out?
No, that's okay. We can
Well,
follow
we've got
along.
it all. It is linked online and it is available in the, and I've got all the information on here too. And so this is a project that includes the construction of an addition and an outbuilding and the demolition of a structure. So to begin, there is the proposed demolition of an existing secondary structure. So we can see that depicted here in the photos. The secondary structure is a historic front gable roof outbuilding clad in vertical siding with exposed rafter tails, a door, access, and wood windows. The application also includes the demolition of a shed roof one-story porch on the rear addition. And then there is the construction of a new rear porch. We can see the footprint here. The porch is approximately 17 by 17 feet. It has a flat roof and it'll be partially enclosed with wood siding. So you can see the porch addition here. This is the view from the North Broadway side. And then you can see it is only partially enclosed, so in this side elevation, it's open to the inside. There's a cedar fence that will be installed to connect that side elevation to the garage. There's a new secondary structure, so a new detached garage that's 28 feet deep by 19 feet 6 inches wide. There's a shed roof massing extending off the side elevation of the new secondary structure. The garage has a 10/12 pitch gable roof clad in metal, an exterior of vertical wood siding, and a slab foundation. Finally, the application also includes some window work. So we can see the existing conditions here, the proposed removal of the non-historic slider windows on the second story of the rear elevation, and the installation of fixed 3 light aluminum clad wood windows on that rear elevation. Some of the findings, so the structure is contributing, the outbuilding proposed for demolition is also contributing in the National Register District. Demolition of a contributing secondary structure does require approval by the HCC. There is visible deterioration in the siding and a sagging roof line you can see in these photos, but there's not additional information on the outbuilding. The rear corner of the property is minimally visible from the right-of-way, so this elevation kind of shows it from the surface parking lot that fronts North Broadway. There are existing trees on the site, and there's a large hedge separating the property from a big surface parking lot, and then North Broadway is further here. In terms of the shed roof porch, this is a non-historic element. It's minimally visible or not visible from the right-of-way. And so removal of this porch elevation is appropriate. The one-story rear porch will be also minimally visible from the right-of-way. It's larger in footprint but lower in height and profile. Placement and massing are appropriate within the design guidelines. The outbuilding is similar in design to the existing outbuilding on the property. So you can see that gable roof, the overall rectangular form. It does have a sort of shed roof, kind of garden shed extension there. And it does use materials that are comparable to the primary house, a wood, board, and batten siding, and overhanging eaves, and those sort of check the boxes of Old Norse outbuildings specifications. The rear elevation windows to be replaced are not original to the structure, and the proposed replacements are compatible with the primary windows on the house. Final site plan revisions may be necessary to meet engineering's standards and the requirements of the city code. Major footprints to the revision would require further HCC review. So staff's recommending approval of 11I24HC subject to the conditions that the applicants provide information on that condition prior to demolition, and the property owners document the building via interior and exterior photographs. That's always something we'd suggest for the demolition of a contributing outbuilding. Final specs for the garage door to be submitted to staff for review, and the final site plan meet city engineering standards.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant here?
And just for the record, Commissioner Tillman has recused on this one.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Forrest Kirkpatrick, 214 West Magnolia Avenue.
Can I interrupt you, Forrest? Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony that you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Continue.
I think the big question here is really, Lindsay, if I'm, correct me, is regarding the demolition of the existing outbuilding, correct?
Well, that's what is noted in the staff report, and I'll let the commission also kind of give their questions too.
Okay, great. I mean, I think that maybe that's the main thing to address. I've been visiting this property since spring, 3 or 4 times to meet with the homeowners, preliminary work and then the design work. And I have witnessed the deterioration in that time of this structure. Not only is there the sagging roof line, which has gotten worse, but the exterior walls in that top right, you can't really see it, but the walls are definitely bellying out from the load. I have not been inside of it. I've actually advised the homeowners to not go inside of it because for health and safety reasons. I personally, pictures don't quite do it justice. It does not seem like a safe structure to enter.
Anything else for us?
Other than that, basically we're, asking for the demolition of that, and then we're going to be replacing it with a similar but larger structure. And then the primary, goal of this project is to increase the outdoor living area, and also for the family, and also to provide screening from. So I think on the very first slide, this is right on the edge of the neighborhood, and next door to it is a large parking lot, and then Broadway. And then the businesses of Broadway, like Greenlee's, you can see that very clearly from the house. So a lot of this, so there's the addition, but then there's also creating kind of a private and intimate space through screening for the family that focuses towards the neighborhood and away from the commercial district of Broadway.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a neighborhood rep? Is it Sean? Mr. Boland?
Sean Boland, representing Old North Knoxville. So the architect was correct. Our primary concern, though we do have secondary concerns, is the demolition of a historic carriage house that's likely been there for a century. When it comes to demolition, we require greater proof that it cannot be salvageable, and to make that decision based on a sagging roof line, we don't think that's appropriate. To be clear, the neighborhood does not oppose a carriage house there at all. We support that. We just do not feel comfortable supporting a demolition without more proof. And I think that's been consistent with the commission's decisions previously. When it comes to the, if they were to provide proof and were allowed to rebuild a new carriage house, a couple concerns there were the windows on the house. They seemed, on the garage, they seemed slightly small. Maybe placement could be a little different, but in theory, we were comfortable with that. The big concern we had from the neighborhood is not necessarily the need for interior exterior space, because I think anyone that's been around the last 5 years knows that we desire that and need that. It does have to do with the guidelines when they talk about mass, size, and scale, because that does not meet the mass, size, and scale requirements. Some of that might be due to the roof pitch. It's definitely in conflict as opposed to our previous application. And it's also it's not compatible. The horizontal lap siding on the house is not compatible with the vertical siding for what they're calling a screen, but not a screen, a fence. It's actually a wall. I mean, the roof sits on top of it. That's a wall. And that's not compatible. Again, we're not opposed to the idea, but the design we think could use some work to make it more compatible. in regards to mass, size, and scale. But we think the primary concern here is demolition without further proof.
What form of proof would you consider to make the case?
Yeah, for most demolitions that we've approved in the past, we've had a site visit, or at least, images from the inside. 2 images from the outside. The neighborhood do not believe that's enough. Though things do deteriorate, it has been there a century. So it has been made with quality materials. Perhaps it's not salvageable, but we do require greater onus than what we feel we've got to do.
Forrest, would you like to respond to any of that?
Again, having visited the site several times, I do not recommend that anybody go inside of that structure. I do not feel that it is safe. I've built boats in the past, and I've built houses in the past, and a boat is not salvageable when its keel is broken. That is the thing that holds it up in the water. Similarly, structures that are above ground, on solid ground, resisting gravity, when their ridge beam is broken, the forces are going in all sorts of directions. To try to pull those walls, back vertical, there is a lot of rot. You can see that through the siding. I'm happy to take more pictures from the outside, but I really cannot, in good conscience, as a registered architect, recommend that anybody go inside of this structure.
Can we look at the picture in the top right-hand corner, Lindsay? Please zoom in on that. If you look at that, look at the window there on the left.
Look at that wall on the left.
Yeah.
And look at all the lines, and please tell me how many of them are parallel to each other.
I'd like to speak to the neighborhood input. I generally agree with the neighborhood's opinions and your opinion, Sean. In regards to whether or not we need to do a site visit to make this determination, I know in my neighborhood, that's the responsibility of our neighborhood, and we take that information to the council. I think it would be hard for us to delineate and say we need to see a site visit for everything to approve the demolition. I would hope that the neighborhood takes that on.
And typically, we do site visits for primary structures and not secondary structures, but I don't really need to go out there and see any more than what I see in that picture. Plus, I trust a registered licensed professional's opinion as well, whose charge is life safety as part of his purview. So I don't have an issue with that myself.
I'm perfectly fine doing a site visit myself. I feel I have the background to do that. I can't walk into someone's backyard, though, without their permission. And when it comes to bowing walls and sagging roofs, yes, those are clearly items of concern. But if we began to allow demolition of structures for sagging roofs or bowing walls, we would have many more less homes in our historic neighborhoods. So, but I do respect the commission's opinions.
How about the massing? Let's discuss that a little bit. Any thoughts or feelings on the massing? Let's go back to the side elevation. Yes. When you look at the roof line of the secondary structure compared to the primary structure, I don't see how that massing is out of place.
Oh, the massing was in regards to the covered porch, not the carriage house. If the carriage house is deemed unsalvageable and they rebuild it to the design there, the neighborhood would be comfortable with that massing and design. Perhaps we would like to see some windows, but those can't readily be seen from the right of way, or a different placement of windows.
Is the concern about the covered porch or the covered porch and the wall?
The covered porch and the wall.
Okay.
Because it's all connected. So we do look at that as an addition to the house, which falls under massing, scale, compatibility. A fence is one thing, it's freestanding. When it's attached and a roof is on top of it, it's an addition.
Yeah, I don't think we generally review fences, and I would be curious to see if this was just a fence, what this drawing would look like without the fence, if it's not a part of the structure itself.
You're correct that we would not review. So if the accessory building or the porch were built and then they came in and added the fence later, the Historic Zoning Commission would not review that fence.
So are we looking at the fence now? Because they put it in there, or are we just focusing on the building and the back porch?
I think I'm questioning if it's a fence or if it's just labeled as a fence. Does it have structural, is the roof line sitting on that?
So the way that this is designed and planned is that we have the primary, and we're drawing a lot off of zoning regulations as well as the neighborhood guidelines. But in plan, we have 4 elements going on. We have the primary structure, which is the large white mass on the left. We have 2 accessory structures because they have roofs, one being the garage and garden shed, the other one being the porch. The porch is about half the size of the garden shed. Everything meets the area limitations and percentage limitations from zoning. And then the 4th element we have is this raised garden, which is not an accessory structure because it's part of the landscape. And where the fence wall question comes in, I think the question is, are these 2 accessory structures one structure? And they're not. They are 2 separate structures. There's a door in the fence to get out to the parking area. I think it's important to note that from a zoning point of view, Lindsay, if you could go to the zoning slide. It feels like, I think some of the comments that I'm hearing make it sound like it's a corner lot, but it is a slot lot. There's a parking lot to the right of it that has a hedge, so a lot of this structure is not visible. If that hedge weren't there, it would be because that parking lot were being developed, and again, this addition would not be visible because it is not on a street.
I can't tell if you answered the question that she was asking, but there's another fence. When you drive by this house, they have like a wood fence. Is that fence staying there?
Yes.
Okay, it is going to stay there. And then you have this fence that's connecting the garage, the covered porch, and the house that you guys are proposing to build, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Randazzo, I think, did he answer your question? Because I think you were asking.
I think I could maybe ask it in yes or no form.
Okay, thank you.
Apart from the door being in the fence, could the fence be removed and you build the buildings as is?
Yes.
So if one day someone said, I don't like this fence, they can tear it out without damage.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did they want to put that tall fence line there just to kind of get some more privacy from all the, because when you go there, it is like, it's at the end, so it's like buildings and commercial stuff on the other side. It's not like the end of a neighborhood or anything else. It's really commercial stuff in a parking lot.
Yeah, so there's the parking lot, and then there's Broadway, and then there's some unsightly commercial buildings beyond that. The purpose is both visual and sound. It's also very loud. Broadway is very, very present there.
So Lindsay, are we looking to vote for just the structures themselves, or is that fence part of it?
I mean, you're voting on the whole application. They're showing the fence. They wouldn't need the permit for the fence.
Okay.
So yes and no.
Okay, I got you. Okay, thank you.
Yes, will you leave that on staff recommendation, please? So that we can consider.
So
Sorry, you don't have.
now I know we are calling it a fence, but it's being attached to the post that's supporting the roof above the porch. And in that case, it is not a fence for the porch area. That's siding. Any way we call it, if it's attached to the property, it's siding. I know we're calling it a fence, but not necessarily.
Beth?
I understand the need for some screening in that particular location, and that makes sense, but I also understand the neighborhood's concern about the massing when you look at that elevation. I think it might be interesting to look at this application with those elements separated.
I'm also surprised about the review of the garage door to potentially be submitted to staff for approval because our prior application was almost solely a garage door. So I'm a little uncomfortable with the differences.
So the prior application was primarily that deck and the porch roof. Those were alternative materials. The garage door condition of approval and the one before that had required it to be wood. So when they changed it, it came back in along with everything else. But the design guidelines for Old North Knoxville, when they don't actually speak to garage door materials. So the outbuildings have a kind of list of materials that says wood lap siding or board and batten, a 12/12 roof pitch, overhanging eaves, exposed rafter tails, wood windows. And then it says, in terms of garage doors, it says garage doors appearing to be carriage doors or plank doors with cross bracing or perimeter reinforcing timbers. So the basis for the staff recommendation there is just that this seems a little bit of extra information might be needed. They're kind of differ in those images. Well, that's one side and that's the rear. And so the guidelines recommend carriage style or plank doors. Metal doors have typically been discouraged in the commission discussion. So that was that note.
When one looks at these elevations, I don't have a problem with the massing, and I think that we need to take it into context that if this were a lot in the middle of the street, it would be a different situation. But because it abuts a commercial area, I don't have a problem with the massing at all being where it is.
I wanted to just talk a little bit more about the carriage house and its demolition. And the first condition from staff says to provide information regarding the existing building's condition and property owners to document the building prior to demolition via exterior or interior exterior photographs. So I'm wondering though, is this something that a historic preservationist needs to look at, or are we just going to be okay? I know I see somebody in the room, but because it feels like I couldn't look at a picture and I certainly couldn't go there and know whether this could be preserved. But I think whenever we talk about demolition of something that historic, we should have a voice of the historic preservationist at the table.
Ms. Cook, why are you here?
I'm here to loiter. Sometimes I like to come and loiter.
Okay.
But I'm not
Would you like to add anything? You don't have to.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
We'll give you the opportunity.
And if we can photograph it and document it, that would be wonderful. And something else, maybe open up the doors and just, I don't know. Maybe that'd be great.
Thank you.
And not only that, I agree with you, but I think you yourself admitted that you haven't been back there to touch it or look at it, right? You just visually looked at it? Is that what you told us earlier?
I have not been inside of it, but I've been all around it.
Okay.
You can see, some of these boards are rotted to the point where you can, peep in.
So, where will we go with this?
I'm happy to coordinate a site visit with anybody with the property owner's permission. Of course, I'd have to receive that, or take Holly over there.
Well, one thing I do want to respond to was the lot and how this lot is on the edge of the neighborhood next to commercial area. And if it were in the center of the neighborhood, you wouldn't be able to see the rear of the house. Absolutely true statement. However, this is a very unique lot. It appears as though it was segregated by the two houses on that block in a way to make it to where a house could never be built between the two. So we do get the line of sight from one side. That's a minor issue though, but it's a distinction that should be pointed out.
Lindsay, do you mind zooming in on that top center photo? So this is the view, and we wanted to be transparent and honest about our design intentions with our elevation, so we did not show all of the existing site conditions. But none of what we're proposing besides the top of the carriage house will be visible due to the hedge.
No, I'm talking coming down from Glenwood to Broadway. There's that vacant lot in between the two houses that can never be built on.
Sean, I'm actually not sure what vacant lot you're referring to. Lindsay, can you take a look at the?
And technically,
is there a survey? Did the survey make it into this, Lindsay? There we go. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure about a vacant lot.
Yeah, it's technically not a vacant lot. There was a vacant lot there, and they've redivided it to make a dogleg lot and a square lot. So your line of sight is much greater coming from Glenwood to Broadway. But the primary concern isn't necessarily, well, you can see there how far out porch would stand and how much you could see from West Glenwood. It's also at the rear of the property. The scaling and the compatibility is what we're concerned with there. But the primary concern is the demolition without further proof. We feel that sets a precedent that we don't want duplicated.
I have a quick question for the city, for the attorney. Or first, I have to leave. Are we going to have a quorum? Yes. If I leave, you still have a quorum?
Yes.
Do you have 2 minutes? Okay, thank you. All right.
I have a question for Sean. Did you speak to the steel columns on the carriage house?
I did not see any steel columns on the carriage house.
The design guidelines don't recommend that as a material, and so that's another question. This is a huge application, by the way. There's a lot of discussion points.
Where are the steel columns on the garden shed edition?
Yes, on page 18 of the application, you can see it points to steel columns in between each of those smaller windows on the carriage house.
Okay, that would be inappropriate, but an easy switch to wood or wood composite would be perfectly fine. Since you are pointing that out, are there steel columns on the porch, holding the porch addition up?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Did somebody mention earlier about doing a site visit or no? Okay, I was just asking because like when you look at this house from the street, I mean, I'm like, the first thing I see is that carriage house back there from the street. I'm sitting here, I pulled it up and. See, there it is, just looking at us. So.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation with one condition, and that being that the existing carriage house be properly documented in need of demolition, whatever form that needs to take, whether it's engaging Knox Heritage to come do some documentation, or if we allow the applicant to take pictures. I would make the motion based on that one condition. Otherwise, based on staff approval.
And I'm sorry.
No.
Do you not want to include the other staff recommendations
No.
on your motion?
I'm adding that to those three. Yeah, that would be number 4.
Thank you.
Sure.
I would second that motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Find somewhere else to loiter. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for your time and your patience. And Commissioner Kessler, thank you for your pastoral words this morning. That was very nice.